Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, January the 6th. We do have a big 11-game slate for Wednesday. I don't really want to waste too much time. Just before we get started with the breakdown, guys, as always, I'd appreciate it if you would hit the like button down below. If you are new to the channel, be sure to click that subscribe button as well. Hit the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos, and if you do really enjoy my videos, if they help you out a lot, you want to get more content from me, you want to see more that I have to offer, I do have a Patreon link down below in the description. I do provide a lot of additional content over on Patreon, so if that's something that interests you, if you want to check that out, it is linked down below in the description. But let's go ahead and take a look at this 11-game slate. We will start off at point guard like we always do. So at the top here, we got James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry, Trae Young, just some of the few top options that we do have on this slate. So looking at like these top four guys, Westbrook is someone I do have interest in. I think Westbrook's going to be a guy that, I just have interest in every slate. He's been so consistent this year, giving you basically a 45, 50-point floor. His worst game this season was his last game against Brooklyn where he had 50 Draftkings points. He's literally scored at least 50 DK points in every game so far. We know Westbrook is going to play big minutes. He's going to stuff the stat sheet. He's basically a threat to get a triple-double any night. So far this season, I believe he has a triple-double in every game except one, which was his last game. So, Westbrook's just so consistent. This matchup against Philly, I would say is not the best matchup overall, but, opening night against Philly, when they played on the 23rd, he had 58 DK points in 36 minutes. If this game stays close, we know we're getting big minutes from Westbrook. We know he's going to be very productive when he's on the floor. I do like him a good amount at 10,200. I think Steph Curry's also viable as well at 9,800. Him and Westbrook are kind of closely priced, so if I can find the salary, I'd just rather play Westbrook over Curry. But I do like Curry at 9,800. Him and Westbrook are like the two guys I like most up top at point guard if I am paying up. In this mid-range, there's guys I like here. Malcolm Brogdon been playing so well recently, getting huge minutes. 37, 41, 46 minutes in an overtime game. He's going to play probably 36 to 38 minutes, if not a little bit more than that, maybe even 40 minutes. They're just running him into the ground right now. Good matchup against Houston. Pretty good pace-up spot as well for the Pacers up against this Rockets team that, should be a fast-paced team this year once again. I know 8K may feel like a lot for Malcolm Brogdon, but this is a guy that has a lot of upside, especially in a matchup like this, in a game like this. So I do like him a good amount in that 8K range. I guess De'Aaron Fox at 8,200 you could go to as well. I do like that matchup against the Bulls. The Bulls have been one of the fastest-paced teams in the league just so far this year. So it's a really good spot for Fox. I would rather play Brogdon for cheaper, but I think Fox is for sure in play on this slate. Scrolling down, looking at other options. John Wall, someone that burned me last slate. I was very high on him, and he just didn't do much. He got into some early foul trouble. He just wasn't that good. 24 DK points in 33 minutes. Wasn't very aggressive either, only took 10 shots. I would expect Wall to bounce back. In a matchup against the Pacers, I don't think this is a spot where I'm going to go out of my way to play John Wall, especially not on an 11-game slate. But he's going to be low-owned after being popular last slate and burning everyone. You're going to get John Wall at low ownership, so I think this is a time where you can buy low on him and, get exposure to him given he is low-owned. SGA, price coming down. I do like SGA at 7,300. I like the matchup against the Pelicans. Pelicans not playing as fast this year, but still pretty decent spot for SGA. Usage should be there as always, so another guy you could consider in that 7K range. But I really like Colin Sexton the most out of all these 7K guys, and I think that might be a little bit of a hot take. I don't know what Sexton's ownership is going to be on this slate. People really don't want to pay for Colin Sexton. He's just not a guy you really see priced up this high. But he's been so good this year, and Cleveland is going to be missing a lot of guys for this game. Darius Garland's out, Dante Exum is out, Kevin Love remains out. So there's a lot of usage to go around, a lot of minutes as well. I do expect Colin Sexton to play a ton of minutes. I like him a lot on both sides. He's shooting guard on Yahoo. He's $29 over there. I think he looks really good on Yahoo at that price point. But like I said, Colin Sexton been so good this year. The floor is still somewhat low for a 7K player. Sexton can give you 30 points any night. He still has a lower floor, but he's got 45, 50-point upside. He might play 40 minutes in this game. He's played 37, 36, 39, 41 minutes their last 4 games with no Garland, no Exum. They're just very thin in the backcourt. They don't have a ton of guards, so Sexton's going to have to play as many minutes as he can handle. Without Garland, the ball should just be in his hands even more. I really like Colin Sexton here at 7,200. The matchup against the Magic is not the best overall, but I think the upside's there. I think the minutes are going to be through the roof, and the usage, he should probably be towards the top of this team in terms of usage. I did look at his numbers with Love, Garland, and Exum off the floor this year, and he actually does lead the team in usage with all those guys off the floor this season. So definitely like Colin Sexton at 7,200, and I think he is going to go pretty under-owned on this slate. I don't think people are going to want to pay that price for him, so makes him appealing for tournaments. But other guys we could maybe look to, like Kobe White in that fast-paced game against the Kings is viable at 6,800. That price tag is a little high for Kobe White, but still someone you could look to. Marcus Smart is questionable, so this will be one of the injuries we need to watch heading into Wednesday's slate. He missed last slate, or he was out on the last slate. Jeff Teague was out as well, and we saw Peyton Pritchard have a really good game off the bench. So Pritchard could be viable once again if Marcus Smart is out. Other guys, though, that we could go to, I do want to talk about LaMelo Ball. So LaMelo Ball I was very high on the last slate, and he came through once again, had a really good game, played 30 minutes off the bench, had 37 Draftkings points. He did get some blowout run, which was obviously beneficial. The game was a blowout. I think they pulled all their starters with like 6 minutes left, and LaMelo stayed in the game. So, he got those final 6 minutes of blowout run, but I would assume even if the game was close that LaMelo would have still been out there. It seems like he's going to play about 28 to 30 minutes a night. Most of the time, he might even see, sometimes he could even see more than that. He seems to have earned the trust of the coaches right now. Like, he's playing really well off the bench. He's a guy that, for DFS, for fantasy, he can be productive when he gets minutes. He's not scoring dependent. Like, he can stuff the stat sheet, can legit, like, we're going to see LaMelo put up a triple-double at some point. Could come here in a matchup against the Hawks. Excellent matchup. I love LaMelo Ball. Once again, I still think he's too cheap on DraftKings at 6K. Like, he can easily give us 6X value on this price point, if not, 7X. Like, he has 45 point upside against the Hawks here. So I'm going to keep rostering LaMelo Ball until the sites raise his price. 6K on DraftKings looks really good. Still too cheap on Yahoo as well. Only $22 over there. I don't think his price tag even moved after the last slate, still on only $22. So definitely give me LaMelo Ball on both sites. Just one of my favorite plays once again. But other point guards we can maybe go to, like I said, Darius Garland's out, so I think that does benefit Colin Sexton. That does benefit Damian Dotson as well. We'll talk about him when we get to the shooting guard position. But like scrolling down, so Peyton Pritchard, if Teague and Smart are both out again, I think Peyton Pritchard is a guy we can look to at 4,600. Not the best matchup against Miami. The price tag also came up, but he played really well last game off the bench. Got a good amount of minutes. I would assume if Teague and Smart are out again, you probably get 28 to 30 minutes from Pritchard off the bench. Would be a viable, cheaper option that you could look to on the slate. Could make some sense as a value. So Lou Williams is one guy I do want to talk about. So right now, as I'm recording this video on Tuesday night, Kawhi Leonard is playing Tuesday night, but Paul George was ruled out. This is a back-to-back for the Clippers, and and we all know that Kawhi Leonard, I don't think he's played on a back-to-back in 2 or 3 years. He just always rests on back-to-back. So I think it is very likely that Kawhi Leonard is out tonight for tonight's game. Obviously, that's just my guess, but I'm assuming because it is a back-to-back, Kawhi won't play. Paul George, though, did not play Tuesday. I have no idea if he plays today. If we get a scenario where one of those two guys are out or both of them are out, Lou Williams at 4,400 is going to be one of the best value plays on the slate. I don't want to plug him in right now just because we don't have that news, but keep an eye on the status of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. There is a possibility that you do see both of those guys out tonight, which would make Lou Williams a very, very good value play at 4,400. But I think that's probably it for point guard. Really, I think that's all the cheap options I like. So I guess we'll talk about Cole Anthony. So with Michael Carter-Williams already out for this game and Evan Fournier questionable, if Evan Fournier is out, I think Cole Anthony is a really good value play at 4,300. It is possible that he does start, especially since MCW is also out as well. MCW has been starting in place of Fournier. Now, MCW's out. Fournier is still questionable, so we don't know his status. Keep an eye on that, but if Fournier is out again, I do like Cole Anthony as a cheap option for 4,300. Possible that he moves into the starting lineup, either like him or Terrence Ross. But yeah, I think we covered point guard. Let's go ahead and move on to the shooting guard position. So at shooting guard, at the top, Bradley Beal at 9K against Philly. Probably not a spot where I'm going to go out of my way to pay up for Bradley Beal on the slate. I think there's other guys I'd rather go to. I'd rather get up to Westbrook if I can. Paul George, big injury to watch, questionable, did not play Tuesday night. This is a back-to-back. My best guess is that he plays here, but this will just be something we have to watch heading into Wednesday night. So keep an eye on that. Paul George is questionable. if we get a scenario where Kawhi rests on the back-to-back and Paul George plays, then Paul George at 8,900 would become a really strong pay-up option if Kawhi does wind up resting for this game. But other shooting guards that we could look to, like in this mid-range, I mean, Fred VanVleet's been playing really well. 7,900, the price tag's coming up, but he scored 47 plus DK points in 3 straight games. We know he's going to get monster minutes. Pretty good matchup against the Suns. Don't mind VanVleet at 7,900, but I really like Victor Oladipo. He's only 7K, which I still think is a little bit too cheap for Oladipo. I like him a lot on both sites. He is pretty affordable on Yahoo as well, coming in at $27 over on Yahoo. So as I mentioned earlier when I talked about Malcolm Brogdon, this is a good spot for the Pacers getting to face the Rockets. A good pace-up matchup for them. Rockets were towards the top of the league in pace last year, and I would assume not much is going to change this season. Oladipo, a guy that's just been playing so well this year, getting big minutes, 34, 36 minutes. He's looked like his old self. He's been very productive on a point-per-minute basis. He's given you at least 33 DraftKings points in every game so far this season, basically giving you a 30, 35-point floor, and we know this is a guy that still has big-time upside, especially in a good, fast-paced game like this against the Rockets. I like Oladipo a ton at 7K. With no TJ Warren, we just know where the usage is going to go. In that Pacers offense, it's going to go through Brogdon, Oladipo, and Sabonis. Like, those are going to be the 3 guys dominating the usage. So I like Oladipo a lot at 7K. RJ Barrett, I was very high on the last slate when he faced the Hawks. Now that he has a matchup against the Jazz, a little bit less interested in Barrett. Not going to be as high on him today. Would definitely rather play Oladipo for the same price, in a much better spot. But other guys that we could look to, like in the 6K range, I mean, not much stands out here. If Fournier is out again, Terrence Ross is a fine play at 5,900. But with his price coming up, not a guy that I feel like I really have to have at that price point. Other guys we could look to, like Alec Burks remains questionable. Even if he's out again, there's really no guys that benefit there besides like Barrett and Payton. Barrett, we talked about. Payton, I think his price is to a point where, I don't really want to go to him, especially not against the Jazz. Other shooting guards, though, like I think Bogdanovic is questionable for the Hawks. So if he winds up out for this game, that could maybe benefit a guy like Cam Reddish. He's really cheap. He's 4,900. Could maybe benefit DeAndre Hunter as well. Even Kevin Huerter. I guess that has a little bit of an impact, but still not much where I would really consider like any of those guys as like core plays by any means. Yeah, I think that's probably it for shooting guard. Oh, I do want to talk about Damian Dotson. So with Darius Garland and Dante Exum out, I am assuming that Damian Dotson starts. Last game with Garland out, he did start, and I would assume that happens again. He did play 29 minutes, had 23 DraftKings points. I think we're likely to get the same amount of time from him here, probably 28 to 30 minutes. I mean, not a guy that you ever feel good rostering. He's not a great point-per-minute player, but if he's going to play 30 minutes, he's only 4,200, he's at least viable on the slate, someone you could consider. If Paul George or Kawhi rest, then Luke Kennard could be viable as well. But if I can find the salary, I would much rather play, Lou Williams over Luke Kennard. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the small forward position. So talking about small forward at the top here, Kawhi Leonard, obviously a big, status to watch. He played Tuesday night, but this is a back-to-back, so it's possible that he rests for this game. Right now, I'm honestly going to assume that Kawhi does not play, but, I'm not 100% confident in that. We'll just have to monitor that. If we do get a scenario where Kawhi plays and Paul George is out again, like we had on Tuesday, then I think Kawhi does become a really good option at 9,100. Jason Tatum I do like as well at 9K, especially if Marcus Smart remains out. Like we just saw Tatum, Brown, especially Tatum, he dominated usage in that last game with Smart out. Had a really big game, over 50 DraftKings points, had 56 DK points, played 32 minutes. He was dealing with foul trouble, had his minutes somewhat limited, and still put up 56 DK points. So Tatum, someone you could consider as well. I would like him more if Marcus Smart were to be out again. But other guys like Gordon Hayward, like this matchup a lot for him against the Hawks. I think it's 7,400. Gordon Hayward is definitely a viable small forward play in that mid-range. Him and Oladipo I do like quite a bit in that 7K range. Scrolling down, looking for some other guys. Like Harrison Barnes was kind of popular last slate, and he did solid once again, but now he's up to 6,100. Probably going to be off Harrison Barnes at 6,100. Don't see myself really playing a ton of him at that price point. Darius Bazley, 5,800, had a big game last game, even in like 25 minutes, 26 minutes, had 35 DK points. That was a tougher matchup against Miami. Now he gets a much better spot here against the Pelicans. Don't mind Darius Bazley at 5,800 if you want to play him at small forward, if you're looking for someone in this 5K range. Jetty Osman coming off a big game. with no Garland, with no Exum, I think his minutes, I don't know if he plays 38 minutes again, but I think, low 30s, maybe high 20s seems likely. 28, 30 minutes seems likely for Osman. Now, Isaac Okoro is expected to be back for this game, but I do still expect Osman to see a good amount of run off the bench, especially, with no Exum and with no Garland. Kevin Love is still out as well. He's 5,500, so I never feel like I have to play Cedi Osman when he's 5,500, but he is at least viable because I think there will be plenty of minutes to go around, and I do expect Osman to get a good amount of run off the bench. Now, DeAndre Hunter, he's been playing really well for the Hawks recently. 30-plus DK points in 3 straight games, been getting consistent minutes. If Bogdan Bogdanovic is out for the Hawks, that just makes me even more confident. DeAndre Hunter continues to play big minutes. The production for this guy, it can always vary. You can have games where he puts up, 15, 20 points. He can go for 30-plus. There's definitely a wide range of outcomes when you roster DeAndre Hunter, but he has been a lot more consistent this year. He's been, really good on a point-per-minute basis. Good matchup against the Hornets. At 5,400, he's for sure a viable option that you could look to in that 5K range. Batum, I think I'll have interest in depending on what happens with Kawhi and Paul George. Batum would definitely become a good option if one of those two guys does wind up out. Other options, though, at small forward, not really much else stands out. We talked about Kennard, who would be viable if, George or Kawhi were to sit. But yeah, I think that's it for small forward. So let's go ahead and move on to the power forward position. So at power forward at the top, you got Giannis, 10,900 against Detroit. Definitely like Giannis here. I liked him a lot on the last slate, and the games actually stayed close, which was huge for Giannis. He played 36 minutes and had 61 Draftkings points. We've seen Giannis, after somewhat of a, early season struggle, he's looked like himself, these last 3 games, over 61 DK points in 3 straight games. We know he's going to play big minutes as long as this game stays close. Now, obviously, against a really bad Pistons team, this game does have a lot of blowout potential, but we've seen this year, even in blowouts, Giannis can still, be very productive. If he plays 28, 30 minutes in a blowout, he can still give you 60 Draftkings points. So I don't really worry too much about that when I roster Giannis just because he's so productive on a point-per-minute basis. I like him a lot here at 10,900. I think he is a really good pay-up option on this slate. Right now, there's not a ton of, standout value, but that could all change depending on what happens with the Clippers situation. More value could open up as the day goes on. And if that does happen, I will for sure be trying to pay up for a lot of Giannis. But other power forwards, Tatum we talked about. Sabonis I like against Houston, but at 9,200, I don't know if he'll be like a core play for me at that price point. I think I'd rather play like Brogdon and Oladipo for a little bit cheaper. But obviously good spot for Domantas Sabonis. Other power forwards, though, like in this mid-range. So John Collins is someone I've been playing a lot recently, and it hasn't really gone too well. I mean, he had 34 DK points last game, which wasn't terrible, but still obviously not what I'm looking for at 7K. He's still affordable at 7,200. It's a great matchup once again against the Hornets. Hornets always been a team that struggled to defend, power forwards and centers. Always been a team that struggled to defend big men. So I will for sure be right back on John Collins. I think he's going to be low-owned once again. He's been low-owned basically every slate so far. So I do like him a lot at 7,200. Gives you some positive correlation, in those LaMelo lineups. You can run it back with John Collins. So I like him at 7,200 for sure. Other power forwards, though, in this mid-range, not a ton really stands out here. Scrolling down, looking for some other guys that we could go to. Talking about guys way down here for cheap. So there's one guy I want to mention for cheap. I really like Kelly Olynyk at 4,400. He has been starting recently. He did start their last game against OKC. He's been playing good minutes, 29, 28 minutes. Had 32 DK points last game in the game that he did start. Now, Kelly Olynyk, when he's in the starting lineup, he does lose, usage overall, but he's still a really productive player on a point-per-minute basis. This is a guy that can be very productive when he does get minutes. He can score, he can grab rebounds, he can even get a few assists, he can get defensive stats. He's just a guy that can kind of contribute in all categories. If the Heat are going to keep playing Olynyk 28 to 30 minutes a night, I think at 4,400, he looks like a really good value play. He's one of the better values, at least right now. I do like him a lot on both sites. He is also very cheap on Yahoo. He's power forward over there, which is very appealing. I think he's been center. He's been center only the last few slates, but then moved him to power forward. So really like Olynyk at power forward on Yahoo at $11, and I do like him a lot as well on Draftkings at 4,400. Looks like a really good value play overall on this slate, at least right now as of Tuesday night. We could maybe get some better value as the day goes on, but I do like Olynyk as a cheap play. But let's go ahead and move on to the center position. So at the top of the center position, we got Joel Embiid for 9,900. I really, really like Joel Embiid on this slate. He's one of my favorite spin-up options right now, up there with Giannis and Russell Westbrook. So Embiid gets an excellent matchup against the Wizards, a team that just, can't defend bigs. Thomas Bryant is not a good defender at all. Embiid should just absolutely go off in this spot. He played the Wizards earlier this year. He didn't have the best game overall, 52 DraftKings points in 35 minutes, but this is a guy that we know can break a slate, can go for 60-plus DK points any night. I think given the savings off of Giannis, I do like Joel Embiid a lot at $9,900. He is $1,000 less. Right now there's not a ton of value, so I'm trying to save as much money as I can. So I like Embiid a lot at $9,900 on DraftKings, and on Yahoo he's at $46. I think he looks like one of the best center plays overall on Yahoo as well. If you can pay up at the position, he looks really, really good. So that's kind of what I'm liking at the top of the center position. We talked about Sabonis. You could go to him as well, but I think if I can find the salary, I would rather play Joel Embiid, who's in a excellent matchup against the Wizards. But other centers, Andre Drummond's price is coming down. He's $8,600. He's been really disappointing, lately, but this is still a guy with a lot of upside. The upside's definitely there while Kevin Love remains out. You could look to Drummond at $8,600. He should be really low owned on this slate, so makes for a solid tournament play at low ownership. In the mid-range at center, like Gobert against the Knicks, good matchup, $7,600. Gobert's been really consistent this year. I don't mind him at all at $7,600. Talked about John Collins, who I do like at $7,200. Thomas Bryant, want to mention him on Yahoo. He's pretty cheap over there. He is $25 on Yahoo, same price tag as Miles Turner, $1 less than Clint Capella. If I'm going to play Thomas Bryant today, it's probably going to be on Yahoo. Tougher matchup against Embiid, but Bryant's just such a productive player when he gets minutes, and the Wizards are giving him big minutes right now. As long as he's not in foul trouble, he's going to play probably 32 to 34 minutes. Foul trouble could be an issue here against Joel Embiid, but I do like Thomas Bryant at $6,900. More so on Yahoo, but on DraftKings, he's still viable as well. Clint Capella, someone I've been playing a lot recently. He's now up to $6,700, which is probably where he should be priced. So now that Capella's price is coming up, obviously not as high on him as I have been. Richaun Holmes was a huge disappointment last slate. He gets another good matchup, though, against the Bulls, a team that, has really struggled to defend bigs, has always been a team that has struggled to defend bigs. This is definitely a spot where Richaun Holmes could bounce back in a big way. He was dealing with foul trouble last game. The game blew out. Just everything went south for Richaun Holmes last game. Now he gets a chance to bounce back in a really good matchup against the Bulls. I definitely like buying low on Richaun Holmes. I think he's going to be very low owned on this slate after he burned everybody on the last slate. But if he's not in foul trouble, if this game stays close, we should get over 30 minutes from Holmes. And we know this is a guy that has 40-point upside when he's playing 30 minutes. So I like him in the 5K range. Other centers, though, not much else stands out in the 5K range. Scrolling down below that, looking for values here. Again, not much value here. You can play Kelly Olynyk at center, so he could be a value that you consider. But really, I think that's it for the center position, guys. I think we covered everything at center, and I think we broke everything down for, Wednesday's 11-game slate. Obviously, I didn't touch on every single player, but with this being, such a big slate, it's hard to really I try and condense these, breakdowns as much as I can. I don't want to talk about every single player on the slate. I just want to give you guys, what I see the night before, what really catches my eye as of Tuesday night. So, hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helped. If you enjoyed, hit the like button down below before you do get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Be sure to click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. And if you do enjoy my videos, if they help you out a lot, you want to get more content from me, be sure to check out the Patreon link down below in the description. You can see all that I do have to offer over on Patreon if that is something that does interest you. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Good luck tonight. Peace.